All right. Good afternoon. We have Brother Iration on the line, and this is Rodge Maskani, and our guest today is Brother Rodge. How you doing today, Brother Rodge?
Blessed by the best, brother. How y'all doing, brother?
Okay. How about you, Brother Iration? How are you today?
Fantastic.
Excellent. I just want to say a few things before we get started here. We're gonna ask Brother Rodge some questions. So the purpose of our gathering here today is to basically enlighten African people and then people in general. You know, if other ethnic groups are interested in listening to what we have to say. We're not going to discount anybody, but I recognize, and I think Brother Iration recognizes also. I know Brother Rodge also recognizes some things that African people have to do to change their situation in the world. So, with that being said, I'm about to start asking Brother Rodge some questions. So, Brother Rodge, before we even get started, let me kind of introduce you. From what I know about you, I've been knowing you for about maybe 30 years, something like that. And I know that you are into telemarketing. You do a lot of youth football coaching. And I know you have a background in creating music on the rap scene. And yeah, those are some things I know about you. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you know, I call myself a Renaissance man. I'm into a little bit of everything when it comes to dealing with us. As far as the youth goes, I coach, I run my own organization because I believe that it starts off at the bottom, then it goes to the top, you know, and being able to, you know, be in contact with the youth and giving them some realness on just life and what's going on around us, you know, and letting them know that, you know, they can also play football, but they also can get mentorship while they're there. As you know, did a whole lot as far as me mentoring kids and me learning about kids and trying to set a new foundation for our people, you know, through sports.
That's cool, man.
But
Cool.
I also do music and I have a lot of other little genres going on. But, you know, my main concern is our people, you know, and the condition and the state that we're in right now is crazy. So, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So, you know, we have a lot of things to work on as people. And
right.
What I've noticed during this pandemic that we're in, I've noticed that African male and female relationships has kind of took a turn. I'm not saying that it was all that great before, but now I see, you know, since people are in close proximity at this moment, I know it's been kind of difficult with black males and females relating to each other. So, can you tell us a little bit about that? Anything that you could tell us about black male and female relationships?
I think that, you know, we as black male, we need to be in more proximity of our woman longer before we decide to shut everything down, because sometimes in crucial situations like this, if you don't have a cordial party there that understand what's really going on, they're not caught up in the corporate world about what's going on, then it's easier. But a lot of times during this pandemic, you got unnecessary stress, and you know, the male is used to doing what he's doing during the day. The female is used to doing what they doing during the day, and a lot of times that takes focuses off the relationship, and now it's time to focus on real stuff. And a lot of times, us as black people, we weren't prepared for it. people off guard, and you notice a lot of things about your mate that you didn't notice before.
So
Vice versa.
you saying with the change
Right.
of a schedule where the male is away, the female is away, both are gone working, and now
Right.
that they are spending more time together, they're starting to learn some different things about each other. That's what you're saying?
Exactly, and sometimes space is good for a relationship. Like I often, tell, a lot of people that's together, sometimes you need to get away and have fun and vice versa, but you have to, when things get crucial and, budgets get cut and things get tight and, it ain't no more, I love you, baby, when you get home. It's like, I can't wait till you get out of my face because you guys been in each other's face all day, so it's no wait time. So a lot of times when we first get married, we don't spend that time like that around them like that, so we can know if we can even, when something like this happens, you can deal with a person. But a lot of this stuff was unexpected, but if we read the Bible, we should already know what's to be expected. We shouldn't take it. A lot of times we take a lot of things for granted, and as a people, and not being prepared, for things when stuff like this happens. Because it's already, a lot of stuff is already written, but people, they living in their own falsetto world, if you know what I mean.
Well, let me add to that a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I know that when you enter into a relationship, and I could kind of speak from my perspective and how I did
Right.
things in the past 30 years of being in maybe 3 relationships.
Right.
One thing people need to start doing is starting to get to know a person better before they make a serious commitment. And then also, like when I entered into my relationship, I've been in my relationship for 21 years. I've been married 20 years now. And
Right.
I know when I entered into the relationship, I was about 34 years old.
Right.
At being 34 years old and growing up in America and incorporating all these ideas about how you should be, how you should live your life, and if you take a close look at the American life, the United States American life, if you take a look at that, it's kind of based on a lot of fantasies and falsehoods, and a lot of pretend things. So when you growing up in that type of environment, and you have false ways of living and in unhealthy ways of living, and you bring that into a relationship, and then you don't get to know the person in times like this in COVID-19, when you are with a person and you're like, dang, I didn't know that. Well, yeah, you didn't know that because you didn't take out time enough to get to know the person, and rushing things. And it's a whole lot of factors that kind of works against you when you're coming up in the United States and trying to have a healthy relationship with a person. It's very difficult. But brother, let Brother Iration tie in on this. I want to hear what you got to say, Brother Iration.
Yeah, well, this is my take on it and what I've come to learn. I mean, I was in a relationship, and 15 years into the relationship is when I discovered that my mates didn't tell me what 8 x 8 was. I asked a question, and they tried to turn it on me, got huffy and puffy. The reading was bad. Asked her, can you write out a grocery list? I'm going to grab this, and we need this and that. And when I got the list and looked at it, I'm like, what is this? So all this time I didn't know. But anyway, that's just part of what we're dealing with. But the other factor that really boils down to this: when you marry a person or you enter into a relationship with a person, you're looking at the person. The person may look beautiful. They might have a nice car. They may have a nice job. Sexually they might be attractive. But what you don't understand is you're locking yourself into concepts. These people carry concepts, they carry life experiences, and different people come out of these different experiences different. Some people come out of relationships, they're bitter. Some are non-trusting. Some are willing to give somebody else another try. Some of them are withdrawn, and some of them are just totally to the point where it's got to be their way and nobody else's way. And, you know, from playing sports, we learn the value of teamwork and understanding your roles. So I've often said that for the female side, I think it would be a good thing if they had an opportunity to play a team sport where they had to take on a role and understand your teammate's role and make sure that those roles don't cross each other. I mean, you got men at home that are dealing with females that have children, and they talk more crazy to the husband than they do the child. They want to fight the man for doing his job, or being a protector, or being a disciplinarian. And these are the things that men are supposed to bring to the table. So we got that and just a bunch of these European things that we're dealing with. You got the television, news media, propaganda, you know, all these advertisements for makeup and hair, and, you know, and you don't need a man and this and that. Hey, listen, the child supposed to learn from both sides. They're supposed to get attributes from the mother and the father. And we're finding that a lot of these children are unbalanced because they're not getting the proper mix.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I agree, Brother Iration. You know, spiritually, mentally, nutritionally, we all off balance. It's like, you know, you bring a fish. We all from Africa originally, and we're in America. But, you know, it's like putting a fish a freshwater fish in salt water. You know,
it ain't gonna work.
You know, so, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, we need counseling before we get married with the person, so the person can know how to go about situations when stuff arises. You know, people always talk about counseling after doing, but I think you need counseling. People should use they should go to counseling before they go get married, because at the end of the day, it's teamwork make the dream work, and it's nobody bigger than each other. But you know, doing this European system, you know, Willie Lynch, you know, his first thing was role reversal, you know, and giving a woman more power than a man, you know, and keeping things all unbalanced, you know, and life is, if it's unbalanced, then, you know, just because, you know, that she can get a job that may pay more than you, she feel like she can say what she want to say, talk how she want to talk, and do what she want to do. But in reality, all she's doing is making Willie Lynch let her true, because she don't understand the plight of a black man and the struggle that we do have out here when we dealing with a lot of these other cultures and other races, and it's hard for us to be prejudiced because, you know, God ain't prejudiced.
Well, we can't be a racist anyway. Racism is actually having the ability and the power to control other people's destiny.
Yeah.
You know, we can't stop people from getting loans and buying houses. We don't have the power to do such things. So it's a lot to be desired. And, you know, I mean, as men, we have to stand up and we have to take on our role. We're supposed to be the insurers. We're supposed to make sure that everything is secure, housing, food, transportation. We're supposed to make sure of these things, bring in the discipline, and our women are supposed to work with us. And don't get me wrong, you got some country sisters out there. And I try to tell the women, you know, I'm not bashing on women, because guess what? If it wasn't for females, we wouldn't be on the planet. So all of us men come out of the stomach of the female. You know, so
and we would never bash where we come from, but
exactly.
your role is your role. You know, and as long as you stay within your role, we can respect it. You know, when you get out of your role, at any point, or vice versa, when your role, it's hard to respect. So, you know, and if they know what's going on in this world, you know, and not what's going on Atlanta Housewives, and, you know, and all this, you know, poison that they sell it, that they, you know, they don't need it, man, they can do it on their own. but you know, but as far as I'm concerned, it took sperm and a woman to create anything, right? So,
well, I think that, not to interrupt you, I think that for any person, male or female, a good lesson in real history could really help you. I mean, we go to European schools, they set the tone for what we should be learning in these schools and what we should not. And I mean, you know, them telling me that Christopher Columbus discovered America ain't gonna help put no money in my pocket or provide no roofing over my head, Magellan, a bad boy, all that's a bunch of crap. But if we had an idea, a good idea of history, and I'll give you an example, like the Japanese, when they dropped the bomb on the Japanese, there was a family that survived, and they were like 5.5 miles or something outside the radius where the bomb hit. And these people survived, so you know what they did? They said, you know what? I'm going to make sure that all of our children and each generation after that know what happened. And it will be embedded in their memory bank. Listen, a lot of our children don't have no real history. They don't know anything about slavery, and if they do, very little. I mean, when people really look into slavery and the black Holocaust and what has happened to people, and what is black people and still what is happening to them, then that'll give you some kind of idea of what's working against you out here in the society. You know, this television is brainwashing. You know, it's just so deep. That's a good lesson in history with him.
Well, let me say some, bring back a point that Brother Rodge made. The point that is very important, and which is a missing link, I mentioned it earlier, is you said the counseling. The counsel could be in the beginning when you're actually getting to know a person. When you and that person sit down with clear conscience and get to know each other and then decide to get into a relationship, you can start setting parameters and have strategies in the beginning of the relationship. Tell me how many people are organized to that point where they, first of all, they got to know each other. Then they said, well, entering into this relationship, we're going to set these parameters and we're going to have these strategies for conflict resolution. Who talks about these type of things? And a lot of us don't because of the way we're raised. We're raised in an environment where a good time is going out, drinking, smoking, and dancing. Okay, that's a big establishment in the European system. You know, you're going out for drinks. And you're not even in your right mind when you're under influence with alcohol. Just look at the Native American. You could see them in their condition because they were introduced to alcohol. So you made a real great point when you said counseling. The counsel could be you and the person that you're entering into the relationship with, where you guys get to know each other and then set parameters and have conflict resolution strategies going into the relationship. And that would be an excellent practice. And see, this is the type of upbringing that we should be getting. And we should eliminate mind-enhancing substances out of our lives because we really don't need it. It took me years to figure that out. But for the sake of time, we need to move on. We just spent a lot of time.
Well, can I add to what you
Well, let's let Brother Iration end this, and then we're gonna move to the next question.
Okay, and one thing I want you to consider in this whole thing, you know, at 30 years of age and at 50 years of age, a lot of people are different. They're growing. So what you see at 50, you may not have been able to see at 34 because of the upbringing and the environment or just period. But if a person is willing to learn, to change, and try to grow, then you can kind of go from there. But so this is why, and then a lot of times what happens with couples is this: sometimes one couple may anyway end up outgrowing the other one. You know, like I was telling you about history. It's like building a fire outside. If it's cold outside and you build a fire, the people that are closest to the fire is actually going to receive the warmth. The people that are further away from the fire are not going to receive their warrant. So check this out. The people that don't have no historical background, nothing like that, they don't have anything to refer to, or very little. These people are more susceptible to fall for the propaganda. They're more susceptible to fall prey to the medical industry. You know, food demand, just a whole host of wars out here that are perpetrated on the people, and you're more susceptible and you're more liable to become a casualty of one of these wars if you're not based historically good or understand the nature of the predators that we live amongst on this planet. And when I say predators, I'm talking about body parts harvesting. I mean, just some things that people could not even imagine, some things that I couldn't even imagine at age 20 or 30. But man, from doing research and homework and studying and listening to others, I mean, we live among some predators that will do and have done and are going to do anything.
Yes, sir.
That's why, Brother Iration, that's why we got to stay prayed up and keep God first, because if we don't, then we're not going to win.
Okay, so since you mentioned God, we about to talk about that in a realistic type situation. You said stay prayed up, and you also said, what else did you say? You said stay prayed up, and what else did you say?
They say prayed up, so we get and stay blessed. You got to keep it moving. You know, we gotta know that, you know, that the enemy is on the move right now, and we gotta protect ourselves, and we gotta get our scientists, our doctors, our ministers, everybody need to be getting together now, having that real meeting and having a real dialogue, so we can move forward with not only, you know, through this pandemic, but academically, you know, like what I already spoke earlier, you know, learning about Christopher Columbus ain't gonna get no money in your pocket. We need to know about how to build revenue, how to create revenue, and as long as
let's move to the. I want to talk about the God situation. So, a lot of people, you know, you have monotheism and you have polytheism. Okay, a one God concept, and then you have many God concepts. Now, I want to ask you, because I have my concept of the Most High, and I'm coming from a spiritual background, and through observation and analyzation, I don't just accept what people tell me about God. I have my own thoughts. So what are your specific thoughts of God? What is God to you?
Well, God to me is everything, because at the end of the day, what He's given me is I'm getting from different sources of which He planted in my life. Say like you know, you done gave me a whole lot of wisdom, which I done researched and listened to and learned, did a lot of learning and self-checking, and you know, and I think we all have the ability to transform this word, you know. And a lot of times we fight over what we think it is, but when it's simple, He's everything, right? And it's not nothing that He ain't created, ain't nothing He ain't did. He just gave you a choice to do what you want to do to make yourself right? So at the end of the day, a lot of people are caught up in fighting over who's a Muslim, who's a Christian, and that, you know, when God created all of it, you know, and if He's everything, then what are we arguing about? He created scientists, He created all this stuff so we can evolve, you know, but we're not doing what we're supposed to do as man, so how is He supposed to transform through our life? Are you feel what I mean?
Okay, so
we're being put in a position in America to not do the right thing, because a lot of times you got to put food on your table for your kids. So that's why I say God is everything, because God opens up doors when you're loyal to what you're supposed to be doing. And you know, and a lot of times it didn't work. you know, and what you work. Like you said, you did a lot of school work. I seen you come up, you know, Rusty Key. So you got a lot of God in you, you know.
Well,
you putting God in other people.
well, I have a concept of God that's sort of, it's not too different from what people are saying, but it goes a little bit deeper. You know, I haven't really talked extensively with Brother Iration about this, and I haven't got his point of view. What is God to you, Brother Iration?
Well, this is what I say to people. Everybody is their own God. And the things that are going on this planet, I think a person has to understand that to make things favorable for you, there will be no intervention from another source that's going to come in. God has given us, He gives people common sense, He gives us wisdom, like my man was saying. He's given us science, He gives us a lot of things. And at some point in time, we have to use some common sense, some logic, and some sound right reasoning. Now, I had a person tell me, I said, well, you know, hey, these people are dropping bombs on innocent people in countries and just killing old people. And the person told me, well, this was the work of God. And I had to tell them, well, wait a minute. What kind of God would do that? Now, this is my take on it. I'm not arguing with anybody. You can have your own take on it. What kind of God would authorize someone to drop bombs to kill innocent people, take resources, and do all that? I said, listen, this is the work of man. This is the work of evil people. And you can see these evil people work at night. Yeah. I mean, these people are sitting in offices operating machinery that's dropping bombs and killing innocent people. This is what we live among. And sometimes you have to call, well, not sometimes, all the time, you have to call the truth what it is. So I can't see any kind of a just God saying, well, look, black people are cursed, so we're going to do this and that. At some point in time, you have to stand up and you have to turn the table. And I'm going to give you guys an example.
Right.
Now, this is our problem on a large scale, but this is my problem I had when I was a small boy. Man, I used to be scary. I used to get beat up. And my mom gave me a stick to fight one day. Man, I was running home with the thing. I was just terrified. So I hadn't learned to embrace violence, which permeates the planet. So this went on until about the 10th grade. And in the 10th grade, this same bully that used to knock me down and punch me in the chest, he bothered my sister. At that point, I didn't even care whether I lived or died. I actually was looking for this guy. I was afraid of him. And when I found the guy, guess what? I gave him a lesson and I served him his hat. Guess what? Ever since that day, I have never had another problem with him.
Right.
So sometimes you have to meet matters eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, because we're dealing with people that don't understand nothing but one language. They're not reasonable, they have no sense of guilt, and they have no sense of fairness. And I really hate to say that. I mean, listen, I don't want to harm anybody.
Right.
But when it comes to my life, I don't need a law. I don't need a bill passed. I don't need somebody to tell me I need a gun permit to take care of my life. That's automatic. I was born with those rights. And there's nothing in the world going to change my mind how I feel about that.
Yes, sir.
Self-preservation, Brother Iration, you know, one nation.
Yeah. So let me just add to that. So basically, you know, when you're born into this world, you're born with a foolproof blueprint of your survival. It's all encompassed in your being. So you are basically a God being, because if you take out the time, first of all, get raised in an environment that's wholesome and nurturing, and you learn the proper tenets of natural living, you're fulfilling God's plan anyway, because you are a God being. This is what I see. You know, I cut my hand chopping food up, you know, in the kitchen on the cutting board, and I had a nice little chunk of I didn't, at the tip of my thumb was it my thumb? Yeah, it was my thumb. And I was healed in maybe 5 days from a bleeding cut wound. And you automatically have what you need. You have substances around you that you could use, that's here on the earth, that you could use to heal yourself. All of this stuff, if you have the proper upbringing, in which we know we don't, just being in the United States, this is not proper. A slave upbringing, and subjugation to some racist white people. So once you get into the knowledge of self, God is, and it's in you. It depends on what you want to tap into, your God self or your devil self. Because you could be, just as much as you could be a God, you could be a devil if you tap into that source. So, it's the God concept is a real heavy subject, So let's move on. We spending a lot of time here on these